What's going on, friends? Harley-Davidson over the years has done away with things right under our noses, and depending upon your preferences, you may not even notice that Harley-Davidson has changed some things and even done away with quite a few things without you even knowing. Call it a cost-saving measure by Harley-Davidson while reducing manufacturing costs and charging you more, or maybe you could just absolutely care less either way, depending on your preferences. There's always been a big debate out there when it comes to clutches, and if you recall, Harley-Davidson's touring bikes have generally always come with a hydraulic clutch system. Now, hydraulic clutches have their benefits, but you either love them or you hate them. Now, in 2021, Harley-Davidson, when the new models rolled out, the hydraulic clutch was actually absent from the touring bikes. Harley-Davidson have went back to a cable-operated clutch system on all the touring models. Now, of course, naturally, Harley-Davidson, the prices were higher that year, and you didn't get a hydraulically operated clutch. So in our minds, it automatically went to, hey, they're cheaping out on us here, charging us more. But what if that wasn't the case? What if there was just a little bit more to it? Now, granted, that was probably part of it, but honestly, there was just a little bit more to the reasoning behind that. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. The main issue with the hydraulic clutch on the Harley-Davidson, and this is based on Harley-Davidson market research, so these are their findings and what they say that they decided based on this, was that riders weren't able to feel the friction zone with the hydraulic clutch. And when they couldn't feel the friction zone with the hydraulic clutch, the clutch was disengaging basically by the time the lever was all the way out. The bike was already rolling by the time you felt it, and Harley-Davidson decided this is dangerous, especially if you're taking off in a turn, trying to go around a slow vehicle, or if you were just simply trying to engage the clutch with your fingertips only, which a lot of us do. Now, I don't know what your preference is, whether you like a hydraulic clutch or a cable-operated clutch. To me, it makes no difference. I just ride it. Now, I never noticed any of what Harley-Davidson was talking about with basically the clutch not disengaging until the lever was pretty much fully out and not being able to fill any of the friction zone with the bike. Personally, I never noticed that. Maybe I didn't even pay attention to it. The entire purpose of a hydraulically operated clutch is to give you a nice, smooth, easy pull. Now, if you really get into hopping up your bike and you really have a need to put in high-performance clutch with a really heavy-duty spring in it, this becomes very imperative and really important to have. And also, it's really nice because you don't even notice the increased effort in the lever if you have a hydraulic clutch, because the hydraulics are doing all the work for you. Now, if you do a performance clutch system in your bike and you have a cable-operated clutch, the first thing you're going to notice is that it is exponentially more difficult to pull in the clutch lever and also hold on to it when you're trying to feather that clutch out to take off. Now, while this isn't going to feel bad to you at first, what you're going to notice as your riding day wears on and you're going through the gears, pulling that clutch in, downshifting, upshifting, coming to a stop, having to hold it at a light, this is going to wear on you, and I promise you, it's going to make you hate it. Harley-Davidson claims that they updated the lever, they updated the clutch perch to make the clutch easier to pull in and out. And what Harley-Davidson's goal was here was to allow engagement and disengagement to begin closer to the grip. So as soon as you start to feather that clutch out, you're starting to feel it, not like when you're letting it out and you're getting all the way out here before anything starts to happen with the hydraulic clutch. That was the goal here from Harley-Davidson. Now, I personally, once again, I haven't noticed much of a difference on 2021 and newer touring bikes as far as clutch operation and engagement. So if any of you guys own one of those, let us know in the comments what your experience is and if you even noticed any of this. Now, while going back to a cable-operated clutch, this may seem like a step back for Harley-Davidson, but hang on a minute. It really does have some good benefits, so stick with me here. Now, hydraulic clutches are great, but they are infinitely more complicated than the cable-operated clutch. So if you start having clutch issues, you've got to start at the master cylinder, go through the hydraulics, down to the plunger. You've got a lot of things to go through before you can determine that the clutch assembly itself is the issue, or if it even is the issue. Now, this isn't quite as straightforward as a cable clutch, and you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to cost you infinitely more in parts and labor to do any kind of repairs or service when it comes to a hydraulic clutch. Not to mention, hydraulic clutches, they do need to be serviced. You need to flush the fluid. You need to change it out. You got to keep it fresh. Because if you don't do that, your clutch operation is going to fade over time when your fluid collects moisture. Everything else is just like your brake system. Now, cable clutch systems, these are more what Harley-Davidson is or was used to be about, which is simplicity, depending on how you look at it with today's Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Yes, even cable clutches do need occasional service, but all you've got to do is get you a relatively inexpensive cable lubing tool, squirt some fluid down there to lube it up, and you're good to go. No worries, and you're back on with your day and on to the next service point on your motorcycle. With the cable clutch, you're not having to bleed air out of the master cylinder, out of the lines, out of the whole assembly itself. You're not having to mess with an additional fluid on the bike. There's a lot less steps involved with doing the cable clutch. Best part about cable clutches is they either work or they don't. And even if they're frayed and failing, they're going to give you some warning signs that, hey, you probably want to take care of this or you're going to have a really bad day. The other benefit of a cable clutch is you could actually change one out on the side of the road if you had to. It's not going to be super easy, but it's definitely not going to be dang near an impossible mess on the side of the road trying to make a repair when it comes to a hydraulic clutch if you were to have an issue or a failure with one of those. Now, as to Harley-Davidson's point about clutch feel and riders not being able to have any kind of feel of the friction zone with the hydraulic clutch, I personally prefer cable clutches because, as I mentioned, they either work or they don't. The cable's either good or bad. Plus, I just like that mechanical feel that I get when I pull the clutch lever and when I'm letting it out and when I'm pulling it in, going through the gears. It's just more positive and engaging, no pun intended, with that mechanical feeling that you can only get from a cable-operated clutch system on your Harley. Even if you're running a cable clutch system on a touring bike or any Harley for that matter, and you do end up with a need for a performance clutch system, you know it's going to have a heavier duty spring. You already know that it's going to make the lever effort even harder all day long, every day. But don't worry, there is a solution for that as well. Variable pressure clutch systems, these will install underneath your factory derby cover. They'll even work with your stock clutch. In other words, kind of basically turning your stock clutch into a performance clutch, because depending on what manufacturer you buy from, some of these centrifugal clutch systems, these can actually provide clamping force suitable for up to 180 foot-pounds of torque. Now, you're really going to have an extremely monster motor to be slipping a clutch when it's made to hold 180 foot-pounds of torque. These centrifugally operated clutch systems are one of the other ways that you can really get around having to put an expensive aftermarket clutch in your bike. It's really nice to only have to spend about $350, and not to mention that, it does reduce the lever effort as well. So you're getting more clamping force and reduced lever effort all at the same time. It really is a win-win, and it fits under the stock derby cover, and you don't have to take the primary off to install it. So maybe Harley-Davidson for once actually did us a solid by going back to the cable-operated clutch, which reduces maintenance costs and eliminates a lot of the hassle and labor that's going to be associated with servicing or repairing the hydraulic clutch systems. Now, as always, guys, I want to hear your thoughts on this. What do you prefer? Do you prefer a cable-operated clutch? Do you prefer a hydraulically operated clutch? What's your opinion on that? Which do you think is better and why? And also, let us know any issues you may have encountered down in the comments as well. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, dodge those cars, and I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.